action. If we prove that a two-party system results in more polarization and extremism that undermines effective progress on any one of these key issues, and that a proportional system of representation is better, then Samford has won today's debate. At the macro level, we will win the claim that a two-party system errs towards extremism and polarization. Studies show that two-party systems create more political polarization and extremism, encourage election denialism, and makes radical action against minorities more likely than in multi-party systems. Grant Tudor from the Harvard Kennedy School and fellow of the Center for Public Leadership finds that studies observe different levels of polarization and anti-democratic extremism in countries with winner-take-all systems, or two-party systems, as compared to those with proportional representation, or multi-party systems. Because multi-party coalitions bring different partisans together across time and require compromise among them, both elites and voters tend to exhibit less intra-party hostility. A more proportional system may help to rein in spiraling polarization. Having more seat-winning parties may also aid efforts to combat escalating extremism. Across democracies, multi-party coalitions have been at the forefront of efforts to confront and isolate extremist movements. Now, the topic at hand asks us to address each of the following points, and even winning a single one of these points proves that the two-party system is not the best form of governance for the United States. First is the issue of free enterprise. Allow us to point to global examples as a testimony to the economic benefits of proportional representation. Countries such as Denmark, Switzerland, Sweden, New Zealand, and Canada rank highest among quality of life and GDP per capita reports in 2024. And this is no surprise or coincidence. It is due to their multi-party systems. Second is the issue of foreign policy. A winner-take-all system results in swings in foreign policy that undermine American credibility abroad. This is Scott Mainring, a political science professor writing from Notre Dame, who said this winner-take-all system leads presidents to react more strongly to previous administrations in reversing policies, which becomes destabilizing for economic investments and for foreign policy. The United States now experiences warned about perils of presidentialism, gridlock, immobilization, and the problem of dual legitimacy. These back and forth swings undermine consistency in American governance, which is crucial to our foreign policy for both our allies and our enemies. Third is the issue of education. A two-party system polarizes educational policy, causing populist revolt against educational systems for political gain. This is Jack Schneider, the director of the Center for Educational Policy. He finds that when the race to the top becomes winner-take-all, students are the big losers. And as the stakes grow higher and higher, public education falls further behind. Political fallout from this high-stakes battle for elite credentials has been profound, helping to fuel the populist revolt that ushered in the Trump era. Competition for educational prizes has also undermined any notion of K-12 education. When your material interests seem to hinge on maintaining a personal advantage, it's hard to think about the public good. Issue 4 is healthcare. The two-party system undermines effective healthcare. This is Jonathan Oberlander, the chair and professor of social medicine at UNC Chapel Hill. He found in 2024 that during the past decade, partisan divisions have defined American health politics. Partisanship undercut America's response to COVID. Meanwhile, partisan polarization on the Affordable Care Act delayed adoptions of policies to enhance the affordability of health insurance, and is preventing the United States from adopting reforms that move beyond Obamacare to address persistent issues with insurance coverage, underinsurance, and healthcare spending. Hyperpartisanship injects political instability into healthcare programs and policies that are adopted. To be successful, public health must resonate and communicate across persons with different political identities. A polarized America is ultimately neither a healthy polity nor a country. Furthermore, look at the examples above that begin about free enterprise. All of those countries, such as New Zealand, Switzerland, and Canada, consistently have the top-ranked access to healthcare in the world. Finally, two-party politics harms affirmative action. Stephen Hill, a senior fellow with the New America Foundation. Yes.
Given that smaller niche parties tend to represent narrow interests, how can you ensure that the voices of marginalized communities like Black and brown voters are not diluted in the noise of a fragmented political landscape?
Absolutely. I think the question actually answers itself in that when we have diverse parties that represent specific intersections of our population, it can best capture the needs and wants of those groups. You talk about coalition building, we think that, again, when you have different groups like intersectional minority movements, they're able to coalesce together and be able to pass better legislation quickly and more efficiently than in a two-party system. Continuing, with proportional representation, a progressive party can also find unexpected allies. Progressives might not outdo conservatives in winning over the majority, But a winner-take-all two-party system facilitates a divide-and-conquer strategy in which a conservative party can cut into economically progressive majorities with such wedged social issues as affirmative action. A multi-party system based on proportional representation would allow us to find out where the American people really stand. Thus, we have proven with evidence from highly qualified experts that a proportional representation system would reduce the partisan divide and help advance America on key issues, including free enterprise, foreign policy, education, healthcare, and affirmative action. As it stands, the two-party system is driving our nation into a dangerous place of extremism that risks the collapse of our very democratic process. But it's not too late to change. By embracing a multi-party system, where everyone's political opinions can be accurately represented by a specific party, we can reduce political extremism and return to a world of friendly and effective political action. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So again, before I begin my time, I would like to continue the extension debate with thanks. Thank you to everybody here to participate in this educational discussion. Thank you to my amazing partner for helping me and encouraging me. Thank you to our opponents for helping us. Two-party system. In fact, multi-party systems can be even more polarizing because they encourage factionalism and often lead to unstable coalition governments. The two-party system, by contrast, forces parties to move towards the center to win elections, especially in swing states, especially in states of economic and political dissonance, leading to more moderation in policymaking. Even in times of gridlock, the two-party system provides stability and a clear process for governance, which prevents the frequent collapse of governments that often plagues multi-party systems. Again, the consistency and compromise, I'll get to in a second. The consistency and compromise offered by the two-party system is far more conducive to long-term governance and legislative action than in the volatile coalition dynamics in a multi-party system. So let's talk about the two specific points they make about education and healthcare. Starting with education. Educational policies like No Child Left Behind and Every Student Succeeds has become possible through the focused governance provided by a two-party system. Research by the National Bureau of Economic Research shows that multi-party systems often struggle to pass significant educational reforms because they have to cater to a wide range of smaller groups with competing interests. The United States two-party system, however, ensures that when the electoral demands change, if this change can actually happen because the cohesiveness of these party platforms are not watered down by competing partners. Second, healthcare. The Affordable Care Act has expanded healthcare access to millions of Americans globally, and it's the product of the two-party system and their ability to create and cater to the mandates for action. According to the Commonwealth Fund, countries that have multi-party systems, such as the Netherlands, struggle with frequent policy action changes due to coalition politics. So again, we're seeing that this is leading to public dissatisfaction and inconsistent coverage. I'll take your point.
Yeah, you said that the multi-party system lacks stability and causes collapse of governance. Can you give examples of where a multi-party system has resulted in the collapse of a stable democratic nation?
I absolutely can. So let's get to that. Actually, let's talk about that point right here, right? So let's talk about global examples of multi-party systems, right? While some multi-party systems function simply effectively with smaller, more homogenous countries such as New Zealand or Germany, they do not offer a viable model for a large and diverse nation such as the United States. We have a political system that requires requires stability and efficiency in order to govern a population of over 300 million people in 50 states with vastly different political cultures. So a two-party system provides that stability. Multi-party systems, again, by contrast, frequently suffer from these government collapses, unstable coalitions, and policy paralysis. And again, this continues to happen in countries that have diverse populations and regional differences. The scale and complexity of the United States government requires a broad, cohesive coalition that only a two-party system can provide in today's debate. Continuing to the second response about how this lacks representation, this is something they were getting at in their clinic.
Sorry, I think we point and agree. What were those countries? You keep saying that they exist, but what are they?
Okay, again, I pointed out that in some of these homogenous countries like New Zealand or Germany, where this is not really a viable model that we can use.
That's the ones that work, which are the ones that don't work.
Okay, I can get to that in the middle of the round.
Sure.
Awesome. So continue my responses to the rebuttals to our first contention about representation, right? And how this is suppressing the minority vote, and how a two-party system is somehow harming diversity here. The two-party system does not suppress minority voices. It actually empowers these voices by integrating diverse perspectives into broad political coalitions. Movements such as the civil rights movement, the labor rights movement, the environmental justice movement all thrive within two-party systems. So again, we're saying minority voices are not becoming marginalized into small fringe parties. We're seeing that these fringe parties lack the power to impact and effect real change. Within two-party systems, we're seeing that minority groups can align with larger political movements and have their voices heard and their concerns addressed at the highest levels of government. To make an even stronger point, the two-party system amplifies minority voices by incorporating them into major national parties where they have real political power and influence. In a multi-party system, these voices are more likely to be isolated, politically sidelined, and set to the side, which we cannot see happen in today's society. A two-party system is what allows for the civil rights movement to thrive. A two-party system is crucial for empowering black voters, it's crucial to empowering brown voters, it's crucial to empowering voters of color and other women voters. Historically, this was evident during the civil rights movement when we see leaders such as Martin Luther King aligned with the Democratic Party to secure pivotal legislation such as the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So again, this partnership enabled the aspirations of black voters to be prioritized, resulting in significant advances for us in society. So we're seeing that a two-party system is more impactful to actually impact and effectuate change in society. Moving forward, deny for a second. Moving forward, again, we're seeing how this stifles innovation and lacks policy solutions, right? Innovation does not arise from the number of parties, but from the demands of the electorate. We're seeing that two-party systems create competitive landscapes where parties must continuously evolve in order to attract and address pressing issues like healthcare and mental health and all the issues that we're addressing under today's debate. The two-party system does not stifle innovation, and instead it enables a flourishing government and private sector solutions. So yes, we can have our cake and eat it too under a two-party political system. So now, let's remind ourselves of what we are debating today. This two-party system is not only effective, but it's necessary. Let's remind ourselves of the resolution that the United States should, predominantly two-party system, is the best way to govern citizens. We are not arguing the word perfect. We are arguing the word best. So we're seeing that my is failing to understand the call of the resolution. All problems cannot just be blamed on a two-party system. Thus, this argument about this two-party system, how it enforces us to pick between two poisons and how it lacks perfection, falls today. Our evidence states that our two-party system is far from perfect, and the contemporary American political system needs to have substantial reform. But to blame all these problems on American faces, from political polarization to partisanship to low voter turnout and dissatisfaction with government, just on a two-party system, is to ignore the complexity that is society. That is societal phenomena often have multiple causes and effects of hidden interconnections. So let me paint two worlds for you to help you understand and contextualize today's debate. Let's talk about the world of the negation. In the world of the negation, we're experiencing a multi-party system where these alternatives exist, but we're experiencing fractured governments that consistently are being held hostage by small fringe parties with extremist views. This world leads to unstable conditions. This world leads to frequent government gridlock. This world leads to policy compromises that fail to address urgent issues. Policies become diluted and competing interests compete for influence, ultimately resulting in inefficiency and political chaos. Now let's talk about the affirmative world and why we have won today's debate. In the world of the affirmative, in a world that has a two-party system, we see a clear and stable society that promotes accountability. We see that major parties are forced to build coalition and incorporate diverse perspectives in ensuring that all voices in all walks of life, particularly marginalized individuals, are heard in the way we produce policies. Policy solutions are strong, they're coherent, whether they're just a free enterprise or foreign policy or healthcare. We're seeing when change is needed, we actually have the tools we need to get it done. Black and brown communities gain power through alliances with these parties. So in closing, we encourage you to vote for democracy, vote for accountability, vote for a system that protects the voices and freedoms of every citizen, and vote for side affirmative in today's debate. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matt Gates, and I'd like to take a moment before my speech to thank everyone that is both with us in person and those that are with us in mind and spirit, and that those that cannot be with us today. This debate goes for more than just those who are in the room. Don't let what we're doing here today to stop you from believing that you can't do it too. Everyone in here is capable of having these discourses, and these are really important conversations that I'm glad I've had with all of y'all. Ready? Okay. Remember what TJ isolated in his first speech, and that the burden of the proposition is to defend that the two-party system is the best form of representative government. Absent a robust defense against all 5 points that we've isolated on the flow, all we need to do is win a 1% risk of a solvency deficit to these 5 regions. The policy gridlock that Khalil referenced is the one of the status quo now, where bills are impassable because of policy and partisan infighting, because people aren't willing to sponsor bills because another party started that. That doesn't sound like the best interest of the American people. It sounds like the best interest of political division and consolidation of political conglomerations. Moving on to the proposition. First, they say that democracy is key. However, the two-party system is actually worse for democracy as voter suppression. Like, try getting a license in the state of Alabama. Governments are going to do whatever they can to try and keep people going from the polls. This is empirically proven with Stacey Abrams' election in Georgia. The two-party system is inherently good at consolidating people so they can rationalize and mobilize against the other party and try and deny those votes. No one ever wants to count Metro Atlanta votes because they know that that's where the Democrat votes are coming, or no one wants to count rural votes because they know that that's where GOP votes are coming. We need to get rid of this and get rid of the geographical consolidation of political alliances. Second, they say that their value criterion is legitimacy. However, the two-party system is actually way worse for causing corruption. You can literally see a January 6th insurrection. The legitimacy has been terminally tanked both in foreign and domestic policy as a result of political infighting, corruption, and the old boys clubs that is Washington, D.C. and the Hill. They also said that multi-party is bad.
You talk about corruption in
Yes.
a two-party system, but in a multi-party system with many small parties holding disproportionate power, who do voters hold accountable when things go wrong?
Yeah, so basically the voters are able to hold other parties accountable via their vote because there's not two parties and you have to choose one of less evils. Corrupt parties are naturally going to get filtered out because people won't vote for them because they aren't pigeonholed into voting into one of two choices. People are individualized and able to make hyper-specific and nuanced decisions based off of their political ideology and not just picking into one or two hats.
Follow-up?
Yes.
All right, so you're talking about how it's hyper-specific, but if there is a specific person, how are you likely to vote them out if that power is still within? Like, there's two parties, so you can easily vote them out.
Well,
with a multi-party system, then you are not able to as easily vote them out. Thus, you talk about the complexity.
Yeah, I think that question operates under the same framework that relies on them having the same amount of voters in their base in GOP, Democrat versus multi-party. However, in a world in which there's a corrupt actor, because there's not the large monolithic consolidation of numbers, they're not going to be that insulated with their numbers and their supporter base. Moving on, they say that the two-party system is flawed. However, they never really gave a warrant as to why that isn't true. They said that they can't just blatantly say that. However, we have literally centuries of empirical reasons why the American people are consistently turned a deaf ear to when it comes to their actual problems. They're not constituents, they're votes. Only every 4 years do people come around and see what's going on in their communities, and they take toll for the next 4 years. Next, they say that the two-party system actually increases diversity. However, we would say that the two-party system treats black voters, brown voters, and voters of other social identity groups like a monolith and tries to use and co-opt them and get all of their votes in one fell swoop. However, a multi-party approach allows for people to individually actually pick the beliefs that they have and they harbor, as opposed to just being reduced to just a black vote or just a brown vote. You're actually your vote, and you're isolating what are the most salient issues to you. And they said that two-party is key to civil rights. However, no, we would make the argument that it actually increased racialized violence by polarizing and politicizing the legislation when it was being implemented into the House and to the Senate, because it then became a partisan issue in terms of segregating or desegregating schools or other public amenities. That then became a political issue as opposed to a human one, whereas a multi-party system doesn't have to have a binary yes, no, Democrat, Republican. It can actually have a more nuanced answer as opposed to the truncated 1-2 punch of a two-party system. Moving on to our value criterions, there were 5 different regions of this debate that we were isolated to talk about. Howard did a very good job addressing educational reform in terms of every child left behind, but they have completely neglected 3 other areas and regions of the topic. Firstly, free enterprise. The laundry list of countries that TJ named off, including New Zealand, Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, all of the Scandinavian countries, are all leading the world in free trade right now, whereas the United States has entered multiple repressive different trade wars with China as a result of politicized economic policies in order to drive up voters into their voter groups. So basically, what we're saying with this is that free enterprise, and this is completely uncontested by Howard, is actually made better in a world of multiple different political parties, because there's not going to be the same consolidation into the same super PACs and donation groups that the DNC and the GOP have, but rather they're actually held accountable to their voters, because that vote means a lot more, because it's not just one drop in one bucket. Moving on to foreign policy, you can extend that here. The mainstream Notre Dame evidence is actually fantastic about why two-party systems decreases legitimacy in foreign policy, because it creates dual legitimacy in which there's a dual presidency in both the incumbent presidency and also the will of the House, the will of the Senate, the will of the person who's running against them. No policies are actually permanent because of the binary policy nature of it, meaning that there's actual no room for substantive change. Moving on to healthcare. I say that healthcare in the two-party system is better. However, you can see all the extensive Obamacare-related fights during the 2012s that this is absolutely untrue. Political infighting, both intra-party and extra-party, have led to the deaths of millions of Americans needlessly. You can also see this through COVID-19 and the way that the pandemic was held out and the rollout with that, because wearing a mask became a political yes-no issue. Many people lost their lives unwillingly due to other people not being willing to coalesce and actually be pragmatic in terms of their political understanding and interactions and entanglements with the perceived other. But the only thing that is other is kind of like where this thought is stemming from. Because we're Americans, we're not born red or blue, we're born with our hearts beating, and we're born caring about the people next to each other. However, there are those in Washington that would have it so that we view what the R or the D means more than what the actual person and the content and quality of their character is. Lastly, they never address affirmative action so far as to the 5 regions, meaning that there certainly is no way, and we don't have to do much on the flow here in terms of why two-party policy is actually much worse for affirmative action. You can see the way that the affirmative action movement and the political impetus in the status quo was co-opted by one of the parties, and they eventually got rid of affirmative action and policies like that in terms of college admissions, which actually decreased the amount of diversity at Yale and other Ivy League institutions. This was because a political party saw that there was a societal group that found this to be an issue, and they decided to make that a political one, reinscribing and recalcifying that 1-2 Republican-Democrat binary and putting American people in best interest once again at the very crossroads of the interests and of the political machinations of our governing body. Look, there's not a lot that I have to do here. All of that was done further on the argument. The clash on the line by line is clear. The two-party system has no robust explanation for why it's better for foreign policy or for free enterprise. Educationally, you can see all of the polarization that happens in infighting with book burning, and then all of the different rages and that they're going against in terms of critical race theory and all of the different aspects of education that get put into the political foray, which takes books out of our children's hands and puts dollars into the pockets of those that are in Washington. What we need to do is reconsolidate our political will and impetus not into political parties, but into political action, so we can actually impact the streets and not the pews of Washington, D.C. Thank you.
All right, let's put a bow on it. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of my opponent's last speech, they offer you 2 worlds. They tell you that the negative results in a world where our politics are hamstringed by the most extreme of opinions. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that is what American government looks like today. We have read tons of good evidence from experts to the existing extremism and political polarization that divides our very nation today is a direct result of the two-party system. When we lack a third or fourth choice and we instead pit Americans against each other as either Democrat or Republican, we inevitably result in a world of extremism, of polarization, of one of divide, and one where we can't come together to compromise. But that does not have to be what the world looks like. In a world in which we have multi-party representation, and the broad spectrum of beliefs can be captured by independent parties, people can, one, choose who they want to vote for, not as a means to an end, but as an end in and of itself, voting for a party that actually cares for their beliefs, rather than using those beliefs as a stepping or jumping off point to win themselves the ballot. To wrap things up, we were given 5 points to discuss today, and it is a crush on all 5 of them. First, the free enterprise point, never addressed by our opponents. Every other country that we've identified, from New Zealand to Canada to Germany, all have higher per capita GDP rates and a better quality of living because they are better at promoting the quality of life standards that come along with free enterprise in a country where individuals' beliefs are fairly represented. On foreign policy, they have dropped that a two-party system results in inconsistencies, where leaders roll back the policies of previous administrations for political gain. That doesn't happen in a multi-party system. On education, they have dropped that it polarizes educational policy. No Child Left Behind is great, but we are at risk in this next election of losing the Department of Education. That is a direct result of the extreme polarization that exists in our political system today. On healthcare, they bring up the ACA. Yes, the ACA is great, but it has been deadlocked in Congress since it came out from doing any further than it does right now. But again, every country that we pointed out, Canada, New Zealand, Germany, all have a multi-party system and provide healthcare to all of their people. On affirmative action, again, they have dropped that polarization exists as a tool to weaponize issues like affirmative action for political gain, which means these dire, critical issues to individual communities get used and weaponized, and at the end of the day, nothing good happens as a result. To quickly go over the last few things of the pro se. On representation, again, we've proven the multi-party system provides better representation. Rather than using voters as a means to an end, we use them as an end in and of themselves. The party represents what the voters of that party actually want. On the issue of legitimacy, absolutely, we can still vote out bad leaders. If a party loses a majority, even in a multi-party system, then it no longer has executive authority. We can vote out bad leaders in a multi-party system. It's what happened in the UK a couple weeks ago when Keir Starmer won over Rishi Sunak. Lastly, the argument of no other option. That is not true. We absolutely have other options. Ranked choice voting, proportional representation can be done in this country. It has been done in other places. New Zealand only made the change in the 1990s. It's not like this is something that has to be baked into our system. It is something that can be developed, it can be changed, it can be modified, and it can result in a better world of American politics. Look, if the world that you guys see today seems like a good and friendly world of politics, where we get along and everything goes great, then I don't know what to tell you. But that is not the world we exist in today. Families have been separated, communities have been divided, neighbors have been pit against each other, all because of the Democrat-Republican titles. But we can do away with that. Through a multi-party system, we can work for a better system of governance that better captures the belief of all people and results in a friendlier, more effective, and ultimately more advantageous political system. Thank you.
Let's really close this today. Today, I will be outlining the key voters or the main reasons as to why the affirmation, Howard University, the real HU, has won today's debates. My opponent talks about not addressing talk areas, but let's talk about the fact that my opponent offered you no value framework for this round. Thus, the highest framework in this round is that of the affirmative. They give you no moral weighing mechanism to tie their case back to. I argue that this is more important because at the end of the day, regardless of policy, regardless of legislation, resolution, or topics that some of us don't even understand, we need to decide that this is the most moral for us. And Howard University outlined that for you, and that there is a legitimate government that values and protects you, the two-party political system. So let's begin with the first topic of polarization. Let's start with our government. Today, Samford has asked us to discuss how polarization is not going to exist. However, as my partner and I have outlined, this is not unique to a two-party system. We argue that the two-party system is not perfect. We agree that it needs reform, as every system needs to evolve. But the point still stands that a two-party system is the best system for the United States. Not New Zealand, not Germany, not any other government except the United States. Additionally, as we discussed burdens, my opponent never addressed a burden that the negation needs to prove that alternative system provides better representation, greater legitimacy, and viable governments. Thus, the burden lies with the negation to demonstrate, that systems other than the established two-party framework can effectively address the complexities. Imagine you're at work, and someone is constantly criticizing a project plan, pointing out every single thing that is wrong with it. They complain about inefficiencies, say it won't work, and tear it apart piece by piece. But when you ask them for solutions, they have nothing. This is what the negation is doing. There is no solvency, there is no plan of action, but they sit here and want to complain. But the affirmative is sitting here and telling you that the effectiveness of a two-party political system. Now, secondly, my opponent is making this point of polarization more dramatic or extreme than it actually is. As my partner outlined in his last speech, it is not unique to a two-party system. But more importantly, all of these problems that my opponent is addressing today cannot be coalition and cannot be put on a two-party system. As 9/21 outlined that all the problems that America faces from political polarization and partisanship, it is not to be blamed on a two-party political system. Next, let's go to democracy. Go back to our value framework, the only value framework within this round that Howard University offers you. We offer that which concerns collective decision making, by which we mean decisions that are made for groups that are meant to be binding on all members of the group. My opponents are arguing for a multi-party system, but are outlining countries that are nothing like the United States. The United States is diverse and unique. There's no other democracy is like us. No one is like us. But we need a solution for us. As my partner outlines in regards to my opponent's point of inquiry, Black politics do not go unnoticed in a two-party system, as my opponent wants you to believe. What we need to avoid is political demonstration in a two-party political system. Black people benefits, democracy benefits. They like to call Black people a monolith or monolithic, but what we need to have is a two-party political system because we have a choice. Protect the Black vote. Redoing so protects the Black vote and other votes of color if we are monolithic. A two-party system gives us a choice. It gives us community colors, it gives us a choice. Now finally, this is not about being the best. It is about being the best, not perfect. Today, the affirmative has outlined today's debate and two or now three speeches about how the two-party system may not be perfect, but is the best for our democracy. As I outlined at the beginning of our case, it is the highest quality and being the most suitable, pleasing, or effective type of thing or person. The two-party system, while not flawless, protects the most essential pillars of a functioning democracy. It ensures that no voice is silenced, that leaders are held accountable, and that the will of people is continuously tested and validated through open debate and electoral competition. It creates a governance structure that evolves with society, promoting progress while safeguarding against the dangers of absolute power. The two-party system is a system that allows for accountability to flourish, a system that was set up for the civil rights movement to take place, a movement that happened right outside these doors and in the city, and in Washington, D.C. as well. The two-party system is a system that protects our votes. Because of this umbrella system of political ideologies, we live and work and breathe in a system that gives us the opportunity to choose. By having the power of choice, we protect those who cannot choose before. That means we're protecting the brown vote, protecting the woman vote, protecting the Black vote, protecting our vote. This is a debate about choice. And at the end of the day, a two-party system gives us that choice. And a system that my opponent is arguing for, that choice does not exist. So I urge you to think about the choices that are coming up in our next election, coming up next month. So when you are thinking about your right to choose, think about a two-party system. So it is for these reasons that I offer a ballot for the right to choose, a ballot for Howard University. You know.
I just don't know what to feel anymore about politics and parties. And I was awake and got shaken by them and then got resettled by them.